Hey folks, Jessica here. So today I want to do a fight guide on Beelzebub, specifically the story Beelzebub fight, so Chaos Returns Dusk. Now I don't normally cover story fights because they're honestly not usually very hard. As long as you're reasonably powerful, you can bowl through pretty much any of the story fights. Beelzebub's a lot different. You're going to have to actually learn the mechanics of the fight or you're never going to clear it, no matter how strong you are. This is a significant departure from the rest of the story fights. I would say you should approach this like learning Lysia's HL. You should learn all the mechanics and then plan accordingly with your team and your grid and then turn by turn what you want to do. However, don't get intimidated by that statement. It's not nearly as hard or as complicated as Lysia's HL. It's just more complicated than any of the other story fights. I guess it's technically not really a story fight in that it doesn't block the mainline story if you don't do it, but still there's like important story stuff gated behind it, and then also you need to do this in order to host the Beelzebub raid. You can still join Beelzebub raids, which is kind of weird that you can do that, but whatever. But yes, you should do this. It's also probably driving you nuts if it's just sitting there unfinished off in the distance. So we'll get you through it, but it's going to be a step-by-step discussion. I'm going to talk about the skills first. I'm going to talk about team comps and considerations for different elements, and then I will show you the whole fight from beginning to finish, and I'll narrate over the video. Okay, let's talk skills. Okay, Chaos Returns Dusk. The first important point to note here is this is a null element boss. That means you're not going to get elemental advantage here. It doesn't matter what characters you bring. I think there's a point I should clear up, because this was asked in my damage formula explained video. Can you crit against null element? The answer is yes. You can crit against null element as any element. It's only when the boss has an element that you must be superior element to crit against that boss. Hopefully that clears that up for folks. Okay, the specifics of the wording here is going to really matter, so pay close attention. Beelzebub is immune to attack down and defense down, so Miserable Miss does not work here. This is a big deal because without any form of attack down on him, he hits tremendously hard. He'll start killing party members within like 3 turns of autos, even if he had a lot of HP. Now, like I said, the wording matters. He's not immune to stacking attack down and stacking defense down, so that's what Lumberjack applies specifically. Additionally, he's not immune to elemental attack down and elemental defense down. So a character like Anila that literally drops 12 versions of those things on him with one button press work really well here, because you're going to need that attack down and elemental attack down to survive his attacks. In the same vein, and this is going to definitely push some people out of their comfort zone, he starts with this effect called Damage Cut and Immunity Nullified, and this lasts the whole fight. You can't remove it. This nullifies all elemental damage cut and debuff immunity effects. So Phalanx does not work here. If you try to Phalanx enemies' attacks, it's going to cut right through that and probably kill somebody. Similarly, if you try and Veil against any of his debuffs, it's going to punch right through and apply. Now, the wording here matters again, because debuff resistance effects, even if they would effectively bring you to the point where you have a Veil, still work. So you can block some of these debuffs if you have high debuff resistance. I wouldn't say the debuff part of this fight is actually that big a deal, so I won't worry about that. But the wording on that damage cut, so all elemental damage cut, so that's things like Phalanx. But single element damage cuts do work. Now, you might think Beelzebub does random element damage on a lot of the skills, so that's not going to be that helpful. Well, keep in mind there are characters like Athena that have a single element damage cut, so hers is a wind damage cut 40%. But characters like her also have an elemental switch tied to their cut. So if you hit Athena's 1, yes, it only cuts wind damage, but it makes it so any incoming damage gets turned into wind damage. So his attacks will come in all kinds of elements, but they're all going to get swapped to wind and then cut by Athena, and that does work. It's going to be super specific to what characters you're using, but that is an important point to note and a tool you should be mindful of, because you might have a character that enables that. Okay, more general fight stuff. Beelzebub has a mechanic called Trance. Whenever he uses a special attack, so any of these charge attacks, omens, triggers, whatever, it's gonna cause his trance to go up by 1. Trance is a multi-attack rate buff. You don't want him to multi-attack because he hits really hard by default, but in addition, if this ever reaches 3 stacks, he gets a huge ass boost to his stats, and he's probably gonna just kill you on the spot, so keep that in mind. To remove stacks of trance, you have to cancel his special attacks. So you have to meet the cancel conditions of all these triggers and omens and charge attacks. That is really key to succeeding in this fight. You can't let many or any of these really go off if you're going to have a good chance of clearing it. Additionally, if you manage to cancel a charge attack while he has overdrive, it will put him in break. So all good things, you want to cancel everything. When an ally is knocked out, Beelzebub will recover 20 million HP, remove 2 debuffs, and gains 3 turns of an attack up buff for each ally knocked out. And apparently the attack up buff is 1000%. Okay, that sounds reasonable. Basically, if you start losing characters, everything's going to start going downhill really fast. You really can't lose characters in this fight, especially if you're not like in the last, say, 20% or so where you can just push through it real fast, because he's going to heal up a great deal and then just start knocking down more characters, and then it's just going to snowball. So keep that in mind. Very important to be careful with everyone here. Okay, special attacks. There's only 4 of them, and they're all cancelable. That is important to know. Let's talk about cancel real quick if you're not familiar. If you've done the 6 Dragon Advent fights, you've seen this before, but basically, in any Battle System 2.0 fight, there'll be, whenever a boss is about to use a special attack on you, so it can be a trigger, an omen, a charge attack, it will appear above their health bar, and if you click on it, it will say what the cancel condition is. The way it works is if you can meet that cancel condition within the turn, so that turn, it will stop the attack from happening and the boss will do nothing for a turn. That's really important, and honestly, if you've not done one of these fights prior to now, that's something you need to get used to. You need to treat every one of these as a puzzle that you need to solve in order to continue in the fight, because if you don't meet these cancel conditions, it's going to go badly. You can maybe let 1 or 2 of these go off, but if you just constantly let these go off, they're going to kill you. So get used to the mindset that you need to build your team and play in a manner that allows you to cancel the vast majority of these attacks. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about team builds. Chaos Caliber. Massive random element damage to all allies. Inflicts stun on 2 allies. This hits tremendously hard. Unless you're Grand Vera with Aegis Merge Up, this will probably kill you if it hits you. In addition, even if it doesn't kill the character, it's still going to stun 2 allies, so you don't want this thing going off. So you need to cancel it. How you cancel it? You deal damage 30 times or more, so you need to deal 30 hits. If you're not familiar with this mechanic, what is a hit? A hit is like 1 attack is a hit. So if you triple attack, that's going to be 3 hits. Additionally, each echo is a hit. So if you have an echo on you, so Endear is 2 for example, and you triple attack, that's actually 6 hits, because each hit will hit once for 3, and then each echo will hit once for 3 more, so 6. Additionally, this is very, very rare, but certain characters, their individual attacks are in and of themselves considered multiple hits. So the one that comes to mind is Valentine's Grimnir. Each of his attacks is 3 hits. So if he triples, it's going to be 9 hits. So if you throw like Endira's 2 on Valentine's Grimnir, that's super powerful for this. That can almost stop this thing on its own. In addition, all damaging skills have their own hit count. So this is Esser, TN, I guess. TN's 1, Intense Bullet, is only 1 hit. However, Stardust, her 3, is 10 hits. So keep that in mind. Certain characters, their skills are going to be instrumental in stopping these hit count cancel effects. Additionally, on top of that, keep in mind that charge attacks from a character are always 1 hit. I know some characters like will bounce all over the screen and like deal 50 million hits in the animation. That doesn't matter. It's still 1 hit. The reason it's like that is you can change charge attack animations in various ways. So, like, I guess I just wanted to be consistent. So yes, a charge attack is always 1 hit. So you rarely ever want to charge attack on a turn. You need to cancel a hit effect. Unisonic. 3-hit random element damage to random allies. Beelzebub gains overdrive and counters on damage. Decreases buff duration on allies hit by 6 turns. You cancel it by dealing 10 million damage or more. So I would say that this one going off, not the end of the world. Chaos Caliber going off is way worse than Unisonic going off. That said, you really don't want any of them to go off, because while this doesn't really do as much damage, it's not going to like instantly kill somebody. You don't want these effects active on Beelzebub. Him countering in particular can be pretty annoying, because like he will counter for a significant amount of damage. But the biggest thing you don't want here is this last effect will essentially strip buffs off your characters. Unless they're extremely high duration buffs, it's going to strip all the buffs off your characters that get hit by this, so be ready to try and cancel this. 10 million damage, you can kind of hedge your bets if you save damaging skills, especially if they're like lower hit count damaging skills, because those aren't useful for stopping Chaos Caliber anyway. But yeah, you want to save those. In addition, like, keep in mind you can use summons to get damage. Yes, summon effects obviously, but also the summons themselves can deal a lot of damage. I think the main thing to note here is Beelzebub's a higher defense fight, and he's null element, so you don't have elemental advantage, and he's throwing out a lot of damage every turn, so if you're running a lot of stamina weapons, hitting 10 million can be tricky. So make sure you gauge how hard your characters are actually going to hit accurately, or you might mess up canceling this. Black Flies, multi-hit random element damage to random allies, inflicts collapsed and slashed on all allies. Again, you cancel it by dealing 10 million damage. I would say of all the charge attacks, this one going off is the least bad. It still can be annoying because this collapse lowers your charge bar, which makes dealing with the final one we'll talk about in a second somewhat difficult. Slash is a significant damage over time, so not great. But if this one goes off, it's less of a big deal. Still, be prepared to cancel it if you can. So last attack is Karma. This one only happens on triggers. All the other ones can happen as charge attacks. Chaos Caliber in particular will happen both as triggers and charge attacks, so remember that. But yeah, Karma is entirely predictable, so be ready for it. This is random element damage to all allies, inflicts subjugated and summonless on all allies. So subjugated is basically, it's essentially a para and makes you get focused for 2 turns. You don't really want that. And summonless makes it so you can't use summons. This lasts 12 turns, so effectively if you get hit by this, it's probably going to last the whole fight. This is not a good thing to get hit by, because summons can be very, very useful in the fight. So you always want to be ready to stop Karma. And Karma is the trickiest one to stop, I would say, because the only way to stop it is to activate a Fated Chain. So a Fated Chain, if you're not familiar with Battle System 2.0, every time a character charge attacks, it builds up their Fated Chain meter, and when it gets to full, you can click it to activate a Fated Chain, does a bunch of damage, debuffs the boss, but most importantly, cancels Karma. So these thresholds, 80, 60, 30, those are important to note, because you need to have a Fated Chain ready going into Beelzebub starting the turn at 80% or lower HP, 60% or lower HP, 30% or lower HP. So you're going to have to pace yourself, because if you don't, you might like just be happily dealing damage to the boss, and you suddenly go to their turn where he's about to cast Karma, and your Fated Chain is not ready, and you're kind of up shit creek, because really there's no way to get Fated Chain ready if it's not already ready going into that turn. So keep that in mind. Last thing to talk about on this page is the trigger map. At 100% trigger, he will Chaos Caliber. So basically, you'll enter a fight, and then turn 1 you can attack. Then turn 2 he will ready Chaos Caliber. So that turn you'll need to deal 30 hits to stop that Chaos Caliber. Honestly, if you can't stop the first Chaos Caliber, just exit the fight and try again, because like it's not worth it if you're gonna take the first Chaos Caliber. It's just like it's bad news. And if you can't cancel the Chaos Caliber, the first Chaos Caliber reliably, then honestly you're probably not ready for the fight. 80% is Karma. So again, make sure you have your Fated Chain ready going in the Karma. 6% is Karma again. So again, pace yourself. I would say getting ready for this 60% Karma can be tricky, because you do need to deal a significant amount of charge attacks in order to get that Fated Chain meter going. 50% he'll strip all debuffs, so keep that in mind that you need to get that shit back up. And then 30% Karma again. This Karma, you have 30% worth of health to get it ready, so this one's not as tight as the first two, so keep that in mind. And then 10% another Chaos Caliber, so be ready for that one. You really don't want to eat the final Chaos Caliber because that would be feels bad. You could probably still drag yourself across the finish line if you eat that last one, but do keep in mind, if this kills people, he's going to heal 20 million for everyone it heals, so just be ready for that. So yes, let's talk about preparation. For characters, I'm not going to go over every single possibility because that would be an entire video in and of itself, but I will call out some that I really like, and I'll tell you why, so you can use that as criteria for picking your own characters for this fight. Anila is probably the best character you could possibly bring to this fight because everything she has is good here. But the main thing, as I mentioned earlier, is All of Creation, her 1. It inflicts every version of elemental attack down and elemental defense down to the boss, and that's gonna make a pretty substantial difference in terms of the amount of damage you deal and the amount of damage you take, so that's really good. But additionally, even beyond that, it's 6 hits. So it is useful in and of itself for clearing the 30 hits cancel condition. Her charge attack gives you a shield, so anybody with a charge attack that gives you a shield or health back is going to be nice because you're going to, like, it's an attrition fight in some ways, you're going to be taking damage constantly. Delays are immensely useful on Beelzebub because honestly, if you didn't inflict any delays on him, it would be really hard to cancel every single one of his charge attacks because they would just come so fast and furious. So delays are really important. Her buff, her 3, this thing, here, let's just look at it. In addition to just being like a decent attack buff, it's a charge bar gain up buff for the whole team. That can be useful because you've got to get those faded chains ready, and like any kind of charge bar boost is going to be nice for that. And then her 4 is a heal, and that's going to be really important. And also, I didn't realize her healing cap was 2015, which I think is the year she came out. That's kind of funny. I never noticed that until I looked here. Heals are really good, but additionally, it's a stamina effect, and any kind of attack boost is going to be useful because it's a high defense fight where you don't have elemental superiority. So Anila, like, is the template for ideal character you want to bring to this fight. For light, I would say Grandaya would be a good choice here. Granblue became significantly more powerful, actually, with her 5-star uncap. Definitely recommend trying her out on your team if you haven't used her since her 5-star uncap. She's real good now. The big reason is her 1 is a 7-hit nuke. Anybody that has a multi-hit nuke is going to be useful for canceling that 30 hits cancel condition. In addition, her 2 is a pretty big heal. A 5,000 cap heal is significant. But beyond that, it gives you attack up and defense up. And again, because you can't use damage cuts on this fight and you can't just drop mist on the boss, defense ups are pretty helpful. Like anything to lower the amount of damage you take is going to have value here. In addition to all of that, she's got the Staff of Hope mechanic, and this is pretty cool for this because when you cast it, it makes it so while it's active, 7 turns, any skill that's used, it doesn't have to be on Isle, it can be on anybody on the team, is going to increment this up, and when it hits 4 stacks, it's going to trigger Flowery 7 to autocast. So if you save a bunch of skills and you have Staff of Hope up, you can spam all skills and get multiple Flowery 7s off on the boss, which will let you cancel that 30-hit trigger easily. A thing to keep in mind, though, is you do need to get multiple charge attacks off in order to get that Faded Chain bar built up. So be careful using Mystic Vortex too much, because this consumes her charge attack bar. It's normally not a huge deal, but you don't want to slow her down so much that you don't get enough charge attacks off to get Faded Chain all the way built up. In addition to that, she's also got a refresh on her charge attack if she has any Mystic Vortex levels, in addition to, like, obviously the stamina buff, strength, and the damage cap up. All that stuff's very good. Definitely recommend Grandaya. Valentine's Grimnir is really well suited to this fight in Wind because all his attacks count as 3 hits, and he is guaranteed to cripple attack, so every time he attacks that's not a charge attack is going to be 9 hits. That really helps for clearing that 30-hit cancel trigger. In addition, his 1 Dazzling Flare, which is always available, by the way, is 6 hits. So on a regular turn, he can Dazzling Flare and then just attack, and that's 15 hits right there. But even more than that, he's got this Cyclone mechanic, if you're not familiar with him. Multiple things increase Cyclone, but it's going to stack up over time, and you can save the stacks in order to use his bigger skill, in particular his 2. 2, Divine Tempest, consumes 7 stacks of Cyclone, and it deals 20 hits. So if you use his 2 and just attack, that's 29 hits right there. So that's just going to let you leap over the 30 hit cancel thing. But I would additionally recommend, Stig just made the cutest whining noise. I would recommend actually saving this for the 10 million damage trigger potentially, because this thing, in addition to all the other stuff it does, which you can read here, deals about 5 million skill damage on its own, which, like, that's half the 10 million damage trigger right there. So keep that in mind. Very solid character for this. It is beginning to feel like I can't go more than 2 videos without recommending SSR Predator, but here we are again. Predator is an extremely powerful character in this fight, and, well, any fight in the game, really. And she's not limited, so if you've got subticks, consider getting her. Like, she is probably the most powerful non-limited character in the game by a significant margin. So, here, the brief rundown for this fight in particular. She has 8 hits on her 1, so that is a big deal for clearing the 30 hits thing, in addition to all the other stuff it does, so Blinded and Onslaught. But she can also give herself Double Strike, and she is guaranteed to triple attack. So that combined for 1 means she's going to get a good chunk of the way towards dealing 30 hits on her own to clear that cancel condition. Beyond that, she just does a ton of damage with her 3 to give herself Assassin. So she can also, pretty close to on her own, clear the 10 million damage trigger. So keep those 2 things in mind. The one thing to be wary of, she does have reduced defense. 70% reduced defense does mean she's going to get hit pretty hard if she does get hit. That can be dangerous, but she also has higher dodge rate, 40% boost to dodge rate. So balance those 2 things against each other, but overall she works great for those cancel triggers. Also, if you're really worried about that defense reduction, you can give her some defense EMPs to offset it a little bit. It won't offset it all the way, but that is something to keep in mind. Somewhat in the same vein as SSR Predator, Holly Normaya is very good in this fight because she's very good everywhere. Things are uniquely suited. She's got an 8-hit nuke on it with Perennial Beauty, her 2, so that helps towards clearing the 30 hits. In addition to that, she's got a pretty sizable damage buff with her 3. This is effectively an assassin skill that can make clearing 10 million damage really easy with her. In addition to all that, she's got like a one-time guts effect, which can save her life. She can stack defense and attack with her 8 ways. Just generally a very well-suited character for this fight. For water, I'm going to recommend a character that I think some people have forgotten exists, but is actually amazing for this fight. Just perfect for this fight, and that is Water Lysia. She's also amazing for Lucilius HL, by the way. So the big thing with her is she's got this mechanic called Enforcer Zeal. It's the stacking buff that is consumed by her skills. So her 1 is a 4-hit nuke, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's got 0 cooldown. So if you move into the 30 hit trigger with 4 stacks on Enforcer Zeal, you can activate this 4 times for 16 hits. That's not all, though. If you activate her 3, Parabellum, Parabellum gives you 4 more stacks on Enforcer Zeal. So you can cast Suppressive Fire 8 times. And that is 32 hits, enough to clear the Chaos Caliber trigger on her own with just skills. In addition to that, Suppressive Fire inflicts random debuffs, one of which is stacking attack down, which should work on Lucilius. In addition, Anti-Armor Barrage 2, which you could use instead of Suppressive Fire, that applies stacking defense down and stacking water defense down. Again, amazing for this. That's not all, though. Parabellum, her 3, gives the whole team 30% charge bar, allowing you to build up for the Fated Chain trigger faster. And in addition to all that, her normal charge attack is Daybreak Sword, which, by the way, does restore 2 stacks of Enforcer Zeal. But if you use Parabellum first, her charge attack becomes Radiant Order, which deals 1,250% water damage. Its natural damage cap is just shy of 3 million charge attack damage, and it strips 3 buffs. That is a tremendously damaging charge attack and can be very good for clearing the 10 million damage cancel condition. Overall, Water Lysia is just perfect for this fight, so consider using her. For class, I would recommend Lumberjack. Really, if for no other reason the fact that Lumberjack can stack attack down and defense down on this boss, and that's going to make a huge difference in the amount of auto attack damage you take. In addition to that, Lumberjack can also stack attack and defense up on your team permanently, which is super helpful, and Lumberjack can bring a heal. I in fact actually bring Bard Song in addition to Dappled Sunlight for even more healing. Bard Song's kind of a terrible heal, but I mean, any healing you can get really helps because, like, it's an attrition fight, so all things to consider. But Lumberjack gets my recommendation for this fight. As far as grid goes, let's just look at the specific grid I was running in the video. It's this one. It's not anything crazy in Fire. It's just, like, it's an alright Fire primal grid. Some specifics, garrison weapons are going to make a big difference because they will increase your defense the lower your HP goes, and you're going to take a lot of damage, so this would definitely be a huge amount of defense. Similarly, enmity weapons work really well here because you're going to take a lot of damage. That said, you can run stamina. I'm running Beelzebubs. You're just going to have to be careful about keeping everyone healed. You're going to have to get those attack downs, the stacking attack downs, and the stacking defense up as soon as possible to make sure you don't take too much damage. I'm running Sword of Palace here. It gives me HP, which is nice. You know I'm not a huge fan of HP. The main reason I'm running it, though, is not the HP. It's just I needed a weapon to go here because I had to take out my Seraphic weapon. Since this is a null element fight, so Seraphic weapon doesn't actually do anything here. I am running Sun, however, even though, like, Sun's bonus is essentially the same thing as a Seraphic. It's against wind foes, and this is not a wind foe, it's null element, but I'm running Sun because Sun gives double strike to allies in first, second, and third position. That's helpful for the hits cancel and also for the damage cancel. You've seen me do this on a bunch of hard fights, but I like multiple Quillins because they reset all my skills, which again helps for canceling stuff. It resets all those, like, it resets Tien's 10 hits, Stardust, and various other things. All of Creation, 6 hits. Like, these things are super handy for any hard fight. Typhon might seem like a weird choice, but I find that well, okay, let's talk about it in case you don't know what she does. Her call, you only use it once, clears all the enemy's charge diamonds, gives everybody 100% charge bar. It basically is a super delay. It knocks out all their charge diamonds and then fills up your charge stack on everybody. I'm using it, the delay is nice, but I'm using it mostly to help me get in position, you'll see in the video, to get in position to get those faded chains up faster. Because again, getting, specifically the 80% and the 60% one can be tricky because you essentially need 8 charge attacks in that period to get a faded chain fully built up. Without a Typhon, it's a little bit inconsistent whether or not you can do that. Characters, we talked about them. We talked about Nilla specifically and a little bit about Tien, but Athena, I mentioned her cut does work here since it has a switch associated with it and it's only single element, but she also has a delay and then a multiple hit nuke. And yeah, we'll talk about the other characters while we look at the fight. Let's jump in. Okay, the fight proper. So this first turn, my priority is to get that stacking attack down on him as fast as possible. So that's why I'm using as many skills as I am. Lumberjack, if you weren't aware, while your 1 is up, every 3 skills you use triggers the stacking attack down and defense down, as you just saw. So that's why I'm using those. I'm also using Athena's damage cut on turn 1, which might seem a little weird, but turn 1 is one of the turns where you're going to take a lot of damage because your stacking attack down's not up yet. Also, there's not a lot of other great places to use it because you're not going to use it as a traditional damage cut to soak a charge attack because you don't want any of those to go off. Chaos Caliber is the first cancel condition I need to meet. It is 30 hits, so I'm using Tien's Stardust, All of Creation on Nilla to get a lot of those hits in. This should be no problem because I have access to most of my skills right now. I'm also using Anilla's 2 to delay because you want to delay as much as possible. The less charge attacks you take, the less cancel conditions you have to meet. I didn't show it earlier, but I actually have Zeta immediately after Tien on my lineup because Zeta has a double delay as well, in addition to Assassin and a ton of skills she can use for high damage. Zeta is also well suited here. Alanon's my 5th slot. I'm using Alanon just for the heal cap up. A thing to note here, I'm doing a full chain burst I'm charge hacking all 4 characters. That's actually important because you gain bonus fated chain meter if you charge hack all 4 characters. If you charge hack all 4 characters, you get 50% fated chain. So that means if you charge hack with 4 characters twice, so 8 charge hacks, you get full fated chains. If you're actually just letting charge hacks go as soon as possible and not doing the full chain burst, it's gonna take more than 8 charge attacks in order to build up your meter, and that's no bueno, because then you're not gonna be ready for the 80% and the 60% trigger. So Unisonic is the trigger I need to meet here. This is 10 million damage. The Sun gave me 1.5 million. Athena gave me another million for skill. I'm getting double strike on everybody here from the Sun. But I'm actually going to miss this trigger. Just barely, actually. I need to see the numbers. I'm curious how much I missed by. But that does go to show you, it's not that big a deal to let the Unisonic actually pass through. You do still want to hit it, and I tried. I was just ever so slightly short. But, you know, sometimes it happens. Jita charge attacked early, which is a little awkward. I wasn't planning on her charge attacking that turn, but the Sun made her double strike into a charge attack, so that's why my fated chain bar is going to be actually ever so slightly short. See, it's at 96. If Jita had charge attack with everybody else, it would be at 100. So keep that in mind. Other things to pay attention to. Remember that defense down and attack down are time limited duration debuffs. They last 3 minutes, so you want to go at a reasonable clip so they don't fall off. It's unlikely for them to fall off because you're constantly stacking them, but just keep that in mind. Don't go like make a coffee or something in the middle of this fight. Chaos Caliber again is up 30 hits. Again, Stardust is going to get us a lot of the way there. Anila's All of Creation is up again, gets us even more of the way there. After all that, we only need 10 more hits. Nice. Normally I wouldn't charge attack on a turn where I have to do a hits cancel, but I really need the Fated Chain because we are past 80% now. So as we cross 80% on that turn, the next thing is going to be Karma. There it is. And as you can see, you need to activate a Fated Chain to cancel this sucker, so that's what we're doing. And then this is essentially a free turn. Gonna still use my delay on cooldown. I'll use Athena's because Athena's delay is also a blind. Get my Bard Song up for the very small amount of healing it does. So I could Typhon on this turn to give myself full charge bar, but two of my characters are already full charge bars, so I don't really want to waste that. Also, he's on 0 charge diamonds, so I don't want to use Typhon here because I'm getting nothing out of the delay there. So I'm just going to manually build up to 100% charge bar on everybody, charge attack for a full chain burst, and then I will Typhon. And again, I try to use my delays whenever they have a good target because we just don't want him to get any charge attacks that aren't triggers. Okay, everyone's finally at full charge bar. Note, by the way, I'm just hitting full charge bar on everybody now, and he's at 66%. The Karma trigger is 60%. Without the Typhon summon here, I would flat miss the Karma trigger and probably not be able to summon anything for the rest of the fight. And that would be no bueno. So that's why I'm bringing Typhon. You can play around this particular hiccup without a Typhon, you just have to pace yourself very carefully. Like, you want to make sure you're not doing really much damage until you get the Fated Chains ready. But I can't stress enough. You gotta be careful about that, because you hit 60 without the Fated Chain ready, it's bad, because you're not gonna be able to summon. All the stuff that comes out of that subjugated and damage are not great either, but not being able to summon is a big deal. So Unisonic is up. Here comes my Typhon. The damage from these charge attacks probably would go a lot of the way towards clearing Unisonic anyway, but there we go, we're past that. If you're wondering why the Unisonic canceled, it's because that was a charge attack based on diamonds, and Typhon sucked all his diamonds away, so that's why it stopped. I didn't actually meet the cancel condition, I just removed the diamonds, so that's why he didn't Unisonic. That might have seemed like an odd use of Athena's shield, but I'm gonna I'm gonna Quillen soon, so I might as well use my cooldowns, because Quillen will reset them all. So just save some damage here for free. So here we go, we're pushing into 60%, and this very charge attack chain, this chain burst, will get us to 100% Fated Chain to let us cancel. I believe that's just barely 10 mil also, so that would cancel an Unisonic if I needed to, or Black Flies. Here's the Karma. Take that. Get out of here. And we continue forward. I probably don't need to point this out, but I am saving my nukes that are multi-hitters because I only really want to use those on turns that that have the Chaos Caliber cancel. In fact, I'm saving a lot of my stuff. It's important to be careful that you don't get caught out without your cooldowns. Otherwise, you might just get plowed by like a Chaos Caliber that you can't cancel because you weren't being careful. Like, I haven't used Tien's 4, her ult, either. And right now I have almost 30 hits and skills actually, just sitting there ready for the next thing I need to cancel. Skills are also useful for canceling the 10 million damage cancel condition as well, so always save those. Don't, like, in a normal fight you use your skills as they come up usually, but for these harder fights where you need them to cancel stuff, you just don't use them until you need them. Going too fast on this fight is way more dangerous than going too slow. So what you got for me now? Another Unisonic. 10 million damage. So I have Quillen available, 2 Quillens. So I can actually use all my stuff here, because we're getting into the latter half of the fight, so 2 Quillens should be able to cover me there. So I'm using these skills for damage. Athena's 2, even Anila's 1. Those aren't really great for damage purely. I mean, they're like a mil or so. They're more ideal for canceling hits, but they still do damage, so that's why I'm using them here. Because, like, yes, they're not ideal for damage, but they still do damage, and every bit counts. Because it's really easy to, like, be just shy of 10 mil. Because this guy's defense and the fact that he doesn't have mist on him makes him take less damage than you think he would. Also note that he crossed 50%, so he cleared his debuff, so that's why he doesn't have any of the attack down or defense down. And yeah, like that was a little bit of a close clear. So always be prepared to do less damage than you think you're gonna do. Now I'm just going to cast everything so I can Quillen at will. I could Quillen immediately there in order to get my skills online and roll them, but I would rather hold it until I really need it. Like, you want to last minute everything. Because getting to the end of the fight and not using your Quillen is much better than using your Quillen early and then not having it when you need it. Again, the Black Flies got cancelled because I delayed, not because I met the cancel condition. And Black Flies, if you need a reminder, it's the same cancel condition as Unisonic. It's 10 million damage. Holding on to this Quillen for dear life. We do need to get Fated Chain ready before 30%. The 60 to 30% gap is much easier to meet because you get 30 full percent of this guy's HP, of Beelzebub's HP to get there. But do remember it, don't forget. And this chain burst right here will get me there. So we are ready for 30%. And this is how you approach the fight. Like, things have gone very smoothly so far, and that's very much a product of the fact that I'm being very careful. I'm not using things early. I'm saving my like all my hit skills, saving my Quillens. I'm using heals every turn. I'm trying to keep the attack down as much as possible on them. All that stuff. So I just Quillened, everything reset. Nice power position. I need to do 10 mil for Black Flies, which shouldn't be an issue since I've got access to everything. I also used Tien's ultimate, so this is going to be a beefy turn probably. You can tell I'm a little, I'm doing the math a little bit and just I'm kind of a little bit worried about hitting that damage threshold, but it pays to be careful. So we met it there, that wasn't too big a deal. And now we're into the next Karma trigger. But we're ready, because we got a Fated Chain, because we prepared. Nice Karma, buddy, get out of here. Take my Fated Ignition. And yeah, we're just gonna continue sailing forward. There's no trigger before 10%, and 10% is Chaos Caliber. So anything else that comes out is just purely gonna be from Charge Attack. And also note that while this guy does hit hard, my health is actually pretty healthy, so my stamina is still pretty fully turned on. And that's a product of me playing in a very specific manner. If you're running Enmity instead, then you can afford to play a little bit less carefully because you're not gonna mind taking some damage. This Black Flies. I think I actually missed this Black Fly. I'm trying to remember when I did this fight, but I'm pretty sure I missed this Black Flies. Let's see. We'll see together. Which, yeah, no, I'm almost positive I missed this one because I remember thinking, man, I could just delay out of this, but I'm gonna meet it so it resets his bar completely. Because that's the thing. If you delay once, you're only buying yourself a turn. But if you cancel it completely, then you're buying yourself several turns because it will empty the charge bar. Here it comes. Yep, completely failed to cancel that. I did. Athena betrayed me of that single attack. It happens though. The Black Flies sucks because it empties everybody's charge bar, but it doesn't matter at this point that much because I don't need freaking Fated Chains anymore. So we're fine. I take your Black Flies and I spit upon them. Get out of here, jerk. So, We're almost towards the end here. He's going to toss in a 10%, and then Chaos Caliber is going to be the last hurdle. But we're ready. We got this. Also, note that the Black Fly's collapse effect is a complete charge bar empty effect. It's completely emptying my charge bar. That's quite significant. But yes, Chaos Caliber. We need to do 30 hits. No problem, because we've got skills and we have Sun. And Sun is on its own an absolute shit ton of hits because of the double strikes. You need to do 13 more hits. Not gonna be an issue. And the last 3%. Nice knowing you, Beelzebub. Do we finish him on this round? We finish him with counter. I love finishing bosses with counter. And that's the fight. Totally achievable. Let's meet on the other side for conclusions. So we have made it to the end of the Beelzebub guide, and I hope this has been helpful for everybody. I hope this encourages you to go try the fight if you haven't already done it. I know the first time you step in there and like you get a couple characters bodied by just autos, and then the Chaos Caliber goes off and kills a couple more characters, it's gonna seem completely impossible. It's gonna seem completely unfair. But I assure you, this fight is entirely doable. It's just a matter of learning the skills, how to cancel them, and then just learning the pace of the fight. Because remember, you're gonna have to pace yourself correctly to be able to be ready for each of the triggers, especially the Fated Chain part. That's gonna be very tricky for people, even for people who are very strong. Because if you're very strong, you're gonna push fast, and if you push too fast, you're not gonna be ready for the Karma triggers. And those Karma triggers, you didn't see in the video because I'm letting them go off, but I didn't let them go off for a reason. They're really nasty if you let those go off. And, you know, I intentionally did this fight with my fire team because my fire team and my fire grid, I would say, aren't like turbo well grids. They're not like 5 Ixabas. They're not that amazing a grid. The grid's fine. It's not bad, but it's not like a super amazing grid, and I did that so the video could feel more like it's something approachable for people. I originally wanted to do the video with, I don't know, like my dark grid, and my dark grid is would be a much worse example to use just because my dark grid's actually pretty strong. I actually probably wouldn't run Highlander. I might run like triple Gisla or something, but Dark would have been a bad example to use, so that's why I ran Fire, to show you that you don't necessarily need a really strong grid to do this. You just need to know the mechanics. It's more a technical fight than a power fight, which is interesting because it was supposed to be a more power-oriented fight than a technical fight compared to Lucilia's HL. I mean, it's not as technical as Lucilia's HLs because nothing is. So maybe they didn't meet their criteria for making this fight. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely try to fight. Let me know if you're having trouble. Let me know if you managed to kill a guy. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye!